Emma Walker stood outside the towering glass building of Grayson Enterprises, clutching her father's worn leather folder to her chest. Her heart pounded like a drum in her ears, her palms damp despite the crisp autumn air. Her outfit, a simple blouse and skirt, was clean but plainly stitched, bought for a few dollars at the thrift store in her small farming town of Willow Creek, Iowa. Dust from the fields still clung to her worn boots, a faint reminder of home. As she stepped into the air-conditioned lobby, the contrast between her world and this one hit her like a wall. Sleek marble floors gleamed under soft lighting, polished dress shoes clicked with purpose, and the faint scent of expensive perfume hung in the air. Designer handbags swung from the shoulders of women who didn't spare her a glance. Emma's braid was neat but unstyled, her nails short from years of fieldwork, not manicured. She felt like a sparrow in a room full of peacocks. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly glossed lips, raised an eyebrow as Emma approached. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone teetering on skepticism, as if Emma had wandered into the wrong building. "I'm here for the 10:30 interview." "Emma Walker," she said, her voice steady, despite the knot in her stomach. The receptionist's smile was forced, her eyes flicking over Emma's dusty boots and plain clothes. "Take the elevator to the 15th floor," she said, gesturing toward the gleaming steel doors across the lobby. As Emma walked away, she caught the faint sound of laughter and a whispered comment. "Who let the farmer in?" Her cheeks flushed, but she didn't turn back. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Don't react to noise, react to purpose." She squared her shoulders and kept walking. Willow Creek was a place where everyone knew your name, your family, and the exact spot where your tractor broke down last spring. It was a town of endless cornfields, weathered barns, and Friday night football games under flickering lights. Emma had grown up there, the only child of a widower farmer who taught her to fix fences, balance ledgers, and dream bigger than the horizon. But the farm had been struggling for years. Droughts, rising costs, and corporate buyers snapping up land had left them teetering on the edge. Her father, Tom, had poured every dime into keeping it afloat even as his health began to fail. When he passed away 6 months ago, Emma inherited the farm and its debts. She'd also inherited his stubborn belief that hard work and heart could change anything. That belief had brought her here, to Chicago, to Grayson Enterprises, a tech giant known for its cutting-edge innovations. They'd recently launched a green tech initiative aimed at rural development, and Emma had spent sleepless nights crafting a proposal for their Open Innovation Challenge. It was a long shot, a farmer's daughter pitching to a corporate titan, but it was her only chance to save the farm and honor her father's legacy. She'd applied for an entry-level analyst position as a backup, hoping to get her foot in the door. Now, standing in the elevator as it hummed toward the 15th floor, she felt the weight of it all. Her father's hopes, her town's struggles, and her own fragile courage. The interview room was stark and modern, all glass and steel, with a long table where 5 professionals sat like judges at a trial. The men wore sleek suits, the women high fashion that screamed money. Their glances were immediate and unkind, sizing her up before she even sat down. The lead interviewer, a man with sharp features and a sharper tone, barely looked up from her resume. "Miss Walker," he said, his voice clipped. "Let's make this quick. You studied agricultural economics. Interesting choice for a tech firm." Emma straightened her shoulders, her fingers tightening around the folder. "Yes, sir. I grew up on a farm. I understand the daily struggles farmers face. And I know your company just launched a green tech initiative aimed at rural development. I believe I can offer unique insight. A woman on the panel, her lips painted a bold red, smirked. You're applying for an analyst position. That's a big leap for someone with soil under their nails. The others chuckled, a low ripple of amusement that stung like a slap. Emma paused, her father's voice steadying her. React to purpose. I may not wear your suits, she said, her voice calm but firm, but I've lived the problems you're trying to solve. I submitted a proposal under the Open Innovation Program your company advertised. If you review it, another panelist, a man with slicked back hair, cut her off. We're not here for pie-in-the-sky projects, Miss Walker. This is a serious company. I am serious, Emma replied, her eyes meeting his. That proposal came from real pain, real solutions, and years of lived experience, not just a spreadsheet. Before she could say more, there was a knock at the door. The panelists froze as a tall man in his late 50s walked in. He was dressed simply but confidently, his presence commanding the room without effort. The air shifted instantly. Everyone stood, their faces a mix of surprise and deference. Emma remained seated, uncertain, clutching her folder like a lifeline. The man looked directly at her, his eyes warm but piercing. Emma Walker, he said, his voice calm and resonant. I've been looking forward to meeting you. The panelists exchanged confused glances. Emma blinked, her heart skipping a beat. Yes, I'm Emma. He smiled, a genuine warmth that contrasted with the cold professionalism of the room. Good. I read your work. He stepped closer, and the tension in the air thickened. What? He said next, silenced every person in the room. The man was none other than Alan Grayson, the founder and CEO of Grayson Enterprises. The panel stood straighter, their forced smiles betraying their unease. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said politely to the room, but I needed to meet Miss Walker in person. Emma stood slowly, her legs unsteady. Me, sir? He nodded. Yes, you're the mind behind the Harvest Future proposal. I read it twice last night. Your vision for sustainable tech in rural America is bold and exactly what this company needs. Murmurs broke out behind the table. One of the panelists, the woman with the red lips, looked stunned. Wait, she submitted that proposal? Alan turned to the panel, his tone sharpening slightly. Yes, under the Open Innovation Challenge we posted months ago. One we apparently didn't take seriously enough. He turned back to Emma, his face softening. Your proposal didn't just win the challenge, it secured unanimous board approval this morning. We're launching a new division to lead this effort, and we need someone who understands both the ground and the grid. Emma's mind reeled. I thought I was just here for an entry-level position. No, Alan said gently. Then, to the panel's absolute disbelief, he bowed slightly and said, You're here because you're the chairwoman of our new Rural Innovation Division, if you'll accept it. Gasps filled the room. The woman who had mocked her whispered, Chairwoman? Under her breath. Alan nodded. Emma will be leading the team that consults directly with communities and engineers on site integration. She's lived this. None of us have. Emma's voice wavered, her fingers trembling against the folder. But I'm just a farmer's daughter. And that, Alan said with a proud smile, is your greatest strength. You didn't learn solutions in a classroom. You lived the problems. The panelists who had laughed earlier avoided her eyes. The receptionist downstairs would soon hear the news. and the people who mocked her boots would be reporting to her department. Alan extended his hand. "What do you say, Miss Walker?" Emma looked down at her father's old folder, its edges frayed from years of use. She thought of Willow Creek, of the farm that had shaped her, of her father's quiet pride. She met Alan's gaze and shook his hand with quiet resolve. "I say yes." Outside the interview room, staff gathered to watch as Emma walked out, no longer the unsure candidate but a leader with purpose. A janitor who had witnessed her arrival smiled and tipped his cap. "Told them not to judge that girl," he muttered to a colleague. Back in Willow Creek, the news spread like wildfire. Emma Walker, the farmer's daughter, was now the chairwoman of a major division at Grayson Enterprises. The local diner buzzed with pride, the same folks who'd watched her grow up now toasting her name with coffee mugs. But for Emma, the victory was bittersweet. The farm was still drowning in debt, and her new role meant leaving Willow Creek for Chicago, at least for now. She packed her father's old pickup truck with a single suitcase and drove the long road to the city, her heart torn between her past and her future. Her first day at Grayson Enterprises was a whirlwind. The new division was housed in a sleek office on the 20th floor, with a team of engineers, analysts, and community liaisons reporting to her. Emma felt like an imposter, her boots replaced with sensible heels, her braid traded for a simple updo. But Alan Grayson had faith in her, and that was enough to keep her moving forward. Her proposal, Harvest Future, was a plan to integrate solar-powered irrigation systems and AI-driven crop monitoring into small farms, making them sustainable and profitable. It was born from nights spent poring over her father's ledgers, dreaming of a way to save their land and others like it. Her team, initially skeptical, soon saw her strength. She spoke their language, but also the language of farmers, bridging a gap they hadn't realized existed. She insisted on field visits, taking engineers to rural towns like hers, where they met families struggling to hold on to their land. One engineer, a young man named Raj, admitted after a trip to an Iowa farm, "I've been designing tech for years, but I never understood what it's for until now." But not everyone was on board. The panelist with the red lips, Vanessa Carter, was now a senior analyst under Emma's leadership. Her resentment was palpable, her comments laced with passive aggression during meetings. "With all due respect, Emma," she'd say, her tone implying none, "we need to focus on scalable solutions, not small-town sob stories." Emma didn't take the bait, but the tension gnawed at her. One evening, after a long day, Emma found herself alone in the office staring out at the Chicago skyline. The city felt like a foreign planet, all lights and noise so different from the quiet stars over Willow Creek. She opened her father's folder, now a keepsake, and found a note tucked inside she hadn't seen before. In his familiar scrawl, it read, "You're stronger than the storms, Em. Keep going." Tears welled in her eyes and she whispered, "I'm trying, Dad." The real test came 3 months later. Grayson Enterprises was set to launch a pilot program for Harvest Future in 5 rural counties, including Willow Creek. Emma had poured her heart into the project, but a last-minute budget cut threatened to slash the program's scope. Vanessa, sensing an opportunity, proposed redirecting funds to urban green tech initiatives, arguing they'd have a broader impact. "Rural areas are a drop in the bucket," she said in a board meeting, her voice dripping with confidence. "We need to think bigger." Emma felt the room's eyes on her. Alan Grayson sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. She took a deep breath, her father's words echoing. react to purpose. "With respect, Vanessa," she said, her voice steady, "rural communities aren't a drop in the bucket. They're the backbone of this country. They feed us, sustain us, and they're dying. My proposal isn't just about tech, it's about people. Families like mine who've lost everything to systems that forgot them. If we abandon them now, we're not building a future. We're just building profit." The room was silent. Alan's eyes gleamed with quiet pride. Vanessa's face reddened, but she said nothing. Later that day, Alan called Emma into his office. "You fought for what matters," he said. "The board's approved the full budget for Harvest Future, and I'm doubling the pilot sites." Emma's knees nearly buckled. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me," he said. "You're the one who made it happen." The pilot launch in Willow Creek was a homecoming Emma would never forget. The town square was packed with familiar faces: farmers, shopkeepers, her high school English teacher, even the diner waitress who'd slipped her free pie as a kid. They gathered under a tent where Grayson Enterprises had set up a demonstration, solar panels gleaming in the sun, tablets displaying real-time crop data. Emma stood at a podium, her boots back on, her father's folder tucked under her arm. "I'm not here as a chairwoman," she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. "I'm here as your neighbor. This project isn't just about tech, it's about us, our homes, our families, our future. My dad used to say, you don't grow crops, you grow hope. That's what we're doing today." The crowd erupted in applause, and Emma's eyes found the faces of people she'd known her whole life. She saw pride, not pity, in their gazes. After the event, a young girl approached her, clutching a notebook. "Miss Emma," she said shyly, "I want to be like you someday. Can I?" Emma knelt down, her heart full. "You already are," she said. "Just keep growing." That night, Emma drove to the farm. It was still hers, though the bank had agreed to a payment plan thanks to her new salary. She walked the fields under a starlit sky, the same fields where her father had taught her to dream. She felt him there, in the rustle of the corn, in the quiet strength of the land. She'd faced a world that doubted her, a city that mocked her, and a challenge that seemed impossible. But she'd chosen to fight, not just for herself, but for everyone like her. Back in Chicago, the viral photo of Emma and Alan Grayson spread beyond the company, inspiring headlines about the farmer's daughter who changed an industry. Vanessa, humbled, became one of Emma's fiercest allies, admitting in a quiet moment, "I was wrong about you. You're the real deal." The janitor who'd tipped his cap that first day sent Emma a note. "Knew you had it in you." Emma's story wasn't just about her rise. It was about the ripple effect of her choice, to stand tall, to speak for those who'd been forgotten, to build a future where no one was left behind. In Willow Creek, farms began to thrive again, powered by her vision. In Chicago, engineers learned to listen to the ground as much as the grid. And in Emma's heart, her father's legacy lived on, a reminder that kindness, resilience, and human connection could grow from even the hardest soil. As she stood in the field, the stars above her brighter than any city light, Emma smiled. She'd faced her challenge and changed lives, not just her own, but countless others. And in that moment she knew, she'd grown from the ground up, and she'd keep growing, carrying hope wherever she went.